I thought it would be really cool if I did something a little different than I usually do. I want to take you along with me as I plan my intentions and my goals and everything that I want to create and bring to life this month for my creative business. Just a little bit of a brief background. My name is Danielle Langin, and I am a writer and a creativity coach. I create products and courses and coaching programs around helping creatives step into their purpose and discover who they are through the gifts that they have to offer the world, and through art and poetry and healing and all things creativity and self-reflection. So that is my creative business, and every single month I have a little ritual with myself where I journal and set goals and set intentions and plan my month ahead. It does not have to be a beginning of the month thing. This can be something that you do anytime. A lot of what I'm going to share with you today was adapted from a business coach named Natalie Bright. I think she's amazing, so I used some of her prompts. And then I also added in my own journal prompts. And I think that this is just a really good way to stay connected to who you are as a creative. And it doesn't matter if you have a creative business like I do, or if you're just a creative in general. If you are a writer or an artist and you're trying to make more time for that part of you and you're trying to set goals and intentions around it, then you can also use these. So my planning typically involves things like journaling, goal setting, intention setting, and then planning out projects and launch dates. Sometimes I already have those things set up, but then I just plug them into my calendar. I figure out what I need to focus on for the month, and then I create inspired actions or a task list from what I need to do. And I also schedule in time for personal things like dates with friends or dates with myself, things like creative ceremonies, which is something that I talk about widely in the work that I do, and time for me to connect to myself. Okay, so the first thing that I do for any monthly planning is to journal. And if you're not a big journaler, that's okay. We're not sitting down and having this whole journal session with ourselves. It takes a really long time. What I like to do is just really reflect on a few different questions and take maybe a minute to 3 minutes to reflect on each of those questions. I just find that they're really helpful to stay connected to my big vision and what I'm really looking to bring into the world through my creativity and my creations and my creative business. So the 4 prompts that I'm going to journal on, these are the ones that I journal on every single month before I get into my goal setting and my intention setting and my project planning, are what went well in the month before, what am I looking forward to in the month ahead, how do I want to feel, and specifically how do I want to feel as it pertains to my creativity and my creative business, and what is my intention for the month. Or you can do a word for the month. Sometimes I like to do both. After we have done the reflection piece of it, we're going to get into goal setting. So the way that I like to do it is I like to break my goals into categories for themselves. So first I'll do goals for the month ahead. And for me, this looks kind of broad usually and not very specific. For example, one month I did craft a solid creativity and writing practice as one of my goals. That's pretty broad. It's not super specific as far as like number goals or how I'm going to do that. It's just like an overarching goal of something that I want to achieve. And once you have those more broad goals, you can break them down if you want to into actual inspired actions and steps that you can take to reach that goal. But if you want, you can always just start out with a really specific goal. So if I wanted to turn that goal into something more specific, it would be wake up every day at this time and write for this many minutes. Then I usually have community goals. So this is ways that I can connect even deeper and further with my community. So those goals usually look like reach out to more people on Instagram, grow my following, create a stronger community on YouTube, send out a weekly newsletter, find ways to nurture my community. So those are usually pretty broad too, but it just gives me a reminder every month that I want to focus focus on community building and the people who are showing up every single day to be in my world. After I do my community goals, I do my money goals. And this one's always a little fun to play around with and reach for new heights. So sometimes I do it more specifically, like I want to make X amount of money with creativity coaching. But other times I do it a little bit more broad, where I say I want to make X amount of money this month overall in my business. So play around with how you want to do that, and always be thinking about how you can actually reach those money goals. It's one thing to set them and dream about them, but it's another thing to actually take the action that you need to in your creative business to reach those goals. And then sometimes I just have a category for other goals, and that usually ends up being my projects, things that I want to create or work on. I don't always do this category for goals, but sometimes if I forgot to put something somewhere else, then I will make a new category called other goals. So once I have planned all of my goals, that's when I move into my project planning. Typically, I like to plan my projects 3 to 6 months out, sometimes a year. I'm creating this video in February of 2022. So in January of 2022, I already planned my whole year of projects and really what I wanted this year to look like. Of course, things are always evolving, growing, changing. So what I created in January is really just a blueprint. And then each month I can look at that blueprint and say, okay, yeah, it makes sense for me to create this right now, so I'll add that to my next month's goal. So my project planning typically isn't involved in my monthly planning. That's typically something separate. I've already created videos on that, like how to create a realistic timeline around your project goals, how to create a vision journal for your project, and how to prioritize your projects. So if you watch all those 3 videos, that is usually what I do to project plan. And then my monthly project planning really just takes my plan for my projects and puts them into focus. So it's less project planning and more prioritizing. So when I look at the month ahead, I'm going to say, okay, what are my main projects? What are my priorities? And what do I need to focus on? This typically looks like me working on one project at a time for the month. It really depends on if it's a small project, if it's a large project, if it's an ongoing project. But more often than not, it's just one project or one big project and one very small project. So once I have done the writing portion of my planning, that's when I take everything and I look at my calendar and I put things in my calendar and my project manager called Todoist. Again, typically my project planning is already done. So really what I'm doing is just moving things around and making sure that they fall into the dates that make sense for where I'm at in my business, what my goals are, and where I am emotionally and physically. What does my bandwidth look like for the month? Does it make sense to launch a project on this day, or should I move it here? Do I have enough time to create it for this date, or should I move it somewhere else? So really this is just about intuition and discernment and deciding if what you've already planned for your projects makes sense in the month that you are planning right now. So once I have all of that organized and done, that's when I'll go back into my calendar and I'll add things like creative ceremonies, meetings and calls with other people, like collaborations that I'm doing, workshops that I want to host, which usually falls under project planning. And the creativity ceremonies are really fun to put in there because they're basically just creative dates that I'm making with myself. If I'm working on something new, a new project for the month, and I haven't done a vision journal on it yet, then I will add that to my calendar to make sure that I have time set apart to keep my own creativity inspired and motivated and fueled while I'm working through creating for other people. So essentially that is what my monthly goal planning and intention setting looks like for my creative business. It is a fun process. Make sure to make it a fun process when you're doing this, because at the end of the day, if you are a creative business owner, the most important thing is that you are filled up, that you feel good about what you're doing and what you're creating and what you're putting into the world. So try to look at your monthly planning and goal setting and intention setting as something fun and inspiring. And then on top of that, also remember to place your own self-care, whether that's creativity dates with yourself and creative ceremonies, or time to practice yoga, or time to talk to a friend into your calendar, because it can be so easy to get burnt out and bogged down by the workload that you have and then not take that time for yourself. So make sure that you're doing that in your creative business. It is so important, and it's going to make all of the difference in how you feel. So that is all that I have for you today. I hope you liked this video. I post new videos every single week, everything from project planning to guided journaling meditations and how to journal, especially if you are a creative person who is looking to have a daily creative practice and become really connected and devoted to yourself and your creativity. So if you haven't already, definitely subscribe. I would absolutely love to have you in this community, and I will see you soon.